Y'all ready for this? Because we are. We are back in the studio. It is your Garden Buddies. I'm Brian Main, John Bagnasco, Tiger Palafox from the iHeartMedia and Entertainment Studios, San Diego, California. A little cooler today as we drove into work. We're glad to have you along. Thank you wherever you're listening. I think we have South Africa listening to us this morning. John, who might that be?
Well, we've got Pakistan. We got Hastam in Pakistan.
I didn't see his name pop up yet.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
You need to look more carefully.
I do. Sherry's checking in from South Africa.
Right.
Sherry was in Costa Rica with us on that trip.
Yeah.
And she's in South Africa now.
What time is it in South Africa right now?
Well, that's a good question. I know what time it is in like England or like Italy, because that's 8-9 hours ahead of us. South Africa, that's a different story. Plus, she's in the Southern Hemisphere. Ooh, it gets all confusing.
What day is it? What day is
it? That's Sherry, can you answer those questions for us, please?
It's not only that. What season is it?
Yeah.
Because it's spring down there, right?
It's all mixed up right now.
Yeah. Anyway, Sherry, thank you for checking in. Hastam from Pakistan, thank you so much. We've got San Jose tuned in this morning, Huntington Beach tuned in this morning, San Diego, Los Angeles, the Imperial Valley, Downey, City of Industry, Seattle, Portland. The list goes on and on, Tiger.
Exactly.
You know, we're very
got a lot to cover.
We're very big in Madagascar too this morning.
All four people.
All four people. She says it's 5 p.m. on Saturday and raining.
5 p.m. on Saturday, and it's raining. Interesting.
Okay, so what is that, like
Today's
9 hours, 10 hours roughly ahead of us?
Yeah.
Weather's been really nice this last week. Yeah, things are starting to recover.
I went 3 days without watering.
Awesome.
And then I felt guilty. They probably didn't need it, but I felt guilty.
Yeah.
I went out and watered again on Friday. Last night, Thursday.
The weather was so nice this week that I switched my window box in the front of my house to mums.
To mums?
Because usually I just don't get into the mum feeling because it's so hot. But I did that yesterday because it was nice weather.
I'm trying to think. This is October now, so you're getting to the point where mums are okay.
Yeah, but we'll see.
But is it the word?
Mum's the word.
Is it? That's the question.
Exactly.
It's okay, but is it the word? In fact, we were getting into the word before the show this morning. Got us running.
Yeah, right.
Up and running.
I never liked the little button mums.
Right, that's the ones I planted in the window box.
Did you?
Yeah, because I can't fit this massive mum plant. I have a small little window box.
Yeah.
Just little 4-inch pots in there.
Yeah. Well, I don't like the big, huge
button ones.
Yeah, huge mound.
Yeah. Well,
like, what's the point?
And we talk about this. The other ones that you do like, the larger mums, those actually aren't until October or even a little bit later.
End of October.
Yeah, because
we put out a program. I don't know if you remember. We called them California mums.
The button mums?
No.
The other ones?
The exotic mums. And the reason was they didn't bloom until the end of October, 1st of November, and then the weather was cooled down in California.
Yeah.
But I remember when Home Depot came to California, they wanted to be the first on the market with mums. So you had to have them in their store the end of August or the beginning of September.
Yeah.
And it's like, the first heat wave that comes in, they're just burned to a crisp.
Yeah.
It's just no point.
Hey, Tanya had some nice things to say this morning as we kicked off the show.
Tanya? We started off great already, huh?
Yeah, people are in a good mood today so far. Yeah, we'll wait till we get into the show.
Nice.
Then you can decide 30 minutes from now, let us know how you feel.
Yeah. And it's crazy that we're having, this nice weather, and then now the East Coast, so sad they got hit by that hurricane.
Gosh.
Just right up through there in Florida into the...
I don't know about hurricanes.
Yeah, they're not good.
But would you live somewhere where you knew you were going to have a hurricane?
It's a season?
Yeah. I mean, it's hurricane season.
It's a season, right?
The Carolinas, Florida, Georgia.
Yeah.
They have spring, they have summer, they've got fall, which is in line with hurricane season, and then they have winter.
And here's the deal with that. Let's talk about the humidity. When is it? Is
no,
it
it's not the heat; it's the humidity.
I think they say there's 2 or 3 months out of the year in Florida where it's really nice.
Really?
Because
not a lot of humidity.
It is humid. Then you got the hurricanes. You got the rain. I mean, it's tropical. It's Florida could be another country.
Well, California has.
It really could be.
California has fire season.
Yeah, we have fires.
So
we're getting into that.
What's
got an
worse,
earthquake.
hurricanes or fires?
I would say hurricane.
If you could have both. So you could have
If
the
you could have
hurricane to
both,
put out the
put
fire.
out the fire?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness
I've got
gracious.
an earthquake app. There's earthquakes every day here in California. Little ones, small ones. But
Yeah.
let's get a little notifications that let you know. Temecula, Murrieta, Southern L.A.
You know something I just thought of, Brian, is that there's a lot of rules right now in California, and I'm dealing with this from a landscaper standpoint because of our insurance, our home insurance rules, right? Like a lot of insurance companies are dropping California and it comes to fire insurance and things like that. And
Floods, too.
they're putting a lot of stipulations on whether they will insure your home or not. And part of it is the growth around your home. And your whole complex is a big red flag for fire in the sense of all those eucalyptus trees and, you know, back behind you guys do have open space and all of that.
There is an open space between us and the units on top of the canyon, the hill, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And, yeah, it's dry.
So I'm like looking at that like there's nothing your complex can do besides just remove all the trees to make it fall into this now insurable space.
But insurance,
you know what I mean?
It goes up seems like
But
every
no, they're just
quarter.
going to drop. They just say they're
Either
going to
that
drop
or they jack it up so much.
Yeah.
It's just, whether it's car insurance, homeowners insurance.
Yeah.
You know.
But with hurricanes, I mean, you're just in an area.
Well,
there's,
what
there's,
about that?
There's no cutting down trees, right? I mean, maybe you could just build your house on sticks.
I would imagine insurance in those areas has to be through the roof. Well,
they have
no pun
hurricane
intended.
Insurance,
Yeah.
right?
What's that?
They have hurricane insurance.
I guess. But
Some
still,
of those
but still-
coastal homes in Florida, I think, are built on stilts.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That's the way you get your house insured is you put it 10 feet in the air so that way it won't flood.
Yeah, but still.
Hey, one of our listeners says that last night at her 50th high school reunion, she got a lot of comments on Tiger.
Oh, is that my mom?
Knowledgeable and cute.
It is your mom.
Hi, Mom. Yeah, she had her
She
50th
said
high school reunion last night.
He's a good speaker. He's knowledgeable and cute.
Oh, that's adorable. Thanks, Mom.
John, we'll go over that during the break.
Make a note of that.
I'm making a note right now.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of the break, which is coming up, you've got the quote of the week by
You know what?
Mr. Wooden Teeth.
We're not going to do the quote of the week because for first time in a long time, I messed up on the quote.
Let's come up with another quote. You must have
Well, that's what I
1,000
was
quotes
going
in your head.
What I was going to say is, why don't our listeners post some quotes?
Oh, there we go.
The ones that are online right now, and we'll read the best one as a quote.
Carol says, listening for the first time, waiting for Greg Rubin to speak.
Hey, Carol.
He's coming on right after the break.
We
right?
love that, yeah. So,
Yeah.
again, you want people to post their quotes on Facebook?
Yeah, if you've got a quote that you think would be good, post it and
Try to stick to gardening.
yeah.
Gardening quotes.
So, I wanted to quickly say that we were talking about weather changes and things and not
Right.
watering. One of the things that helps with not watering is shorter days.
Yeah.
You know, because even if it is warm, it's not warm for as long a period of time.
Right. Yeah.
Yep.
And then pretty soon, the time's going to change, right?
Yep.
November.
Is it November?
Is it November? Early November?
I don't know.
You
Guys, all I know is I wait for the newsletter to tell me when that happens.
The eternal equinox.
the eternal equinox.
Eternal, huh?
Yeah, I know you've been preparing for that.
Of course.
Oh.
We've got some very active people tuned in this morning. It's going to be a good show because they're talking amongst themselves, talking to each other, and
And if
we
you're
like
listening on
that.
the radio, go to our Facebook page next time and you can join the chatter.
Yeah, those on Biz Talk Radio, right, John? You want to interact with the show and be live with us? You can go to our Facebook page, Garden America Radio Show, and interact. Ask your questions, or just sit back and watch. A lot of people like to watch.
A lot of people like to listen in the car too, right?
Sure.
Well,
Good setup right there, John.
He was expecting more out
Yeah,
of me.
exactly. Sure.
But I was
Yes.
thinking I think it was last month, I was driving up to, I think, the Huntington or somewhere, and I was listening to the Padre game. And as I was listening to the Padre game, once I get to Temecula, I can't get the station anymore.
Really?
Yeah. And so
That's 97.3.
yeah, it's 97.3, but you can't hear it once you get to Temecula. So I thought, I wonder if I could get it on my phone.
Yeah.
So I put it on my phone and listened to it
Yep.
all the way.
There you go. That's how you do it. And there are many ways to listen to this show, which we'll get into later on. But right now it is break time. We've got to pay some bills. I want to thank Fertilome, our major sponsor. If you're on BizTalk Radio, you should be hearing a Fertilome commercial now and then. Thank you to our sponsors. Greg Rubin up next after the break, and hopefully some of your quotes on Facebook Live. This is Garden America. All right, we are back from the break. It is Garden America. Happy weekend to you, or whenever you're listening. It could be anytime, day or night, a pre-recorded show. We do appreciate it. Just ask Alexa to play the latest edition of the Garden America podcast, and the show pops right up. We've got Spotify, Pandora, many ways, John, Google to listen to Garden America. With that in mind, our guest is ready. It is Greg Rubin, Tiger, on this Garden America Day here all over the world.
Yeah, we've had Greg on the program before. The president and founder of California's own Native Landscape Design, Inc. Greg has been a big advocate for planting natives here in the Southern California region and California in general. And today we're going to chat a little bit about planting natives and some things that you should consider. And we're going to talk a bit more in detail about planting natives in an area that maybe you don't have irrigation, or maybe you're not going to actively maintain, but getting them established. Greg, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Well, good morning, Tiger.
Yeah, so beautiful day for planting natives today, right? I mean, it's kind of foggy out there. It's a little cooler. It's feeling pretty good. I feel fall right now.
Oh, isn't it nice? I mean, for me, summer can't leave soon enough. I'm probably in the minority that way, but as much as being easier on the plants, it's easier on us.
Yeah. And now, Greg, with your company, you actually do design and installation of California native landscapes, correct?
Correct.
And how long have you been doing that for?
Well, yeah, this is our 30th year, actually. 800-plus landscapes in Southern California, yeah.
And, you guys specialize in the California native landscapes, but also habitat garden, restorative landscaping in terms of, taking back some of the native plants, taking back some of the native, putting back some of the native plants into landscapes, right?
Yeah, for sure. We actually almost treat every installation as a restoration. Sometimes we'll use, if it's in a residential situation, we'll use plants that have been selected for especially good landscape qualities. But that ecology is pretty much all the same, and so that's what's always been missing. And one of the issues when people have struggled with native landscapes is the idea that you want to capture the native ecology in the home landscape. A lot of times, unfortunately, ornamental horticulture, this is probably more like agriculture, and that's not what natives really respond to.
Yeah, and kind of what you kind of mean by that is, that classic gardening method where you go into a bed, you till it in with compost and all kinds of other manures and fertilizers, and then you go and plant, a bunch of different plants in there and, thrive, where you're saying use that native ecology already established in the soil to your advantage by, using plants that are going to respond to that better.
Yeah, they want lean, mean, clean. So, we don't typically amend soils. I mean, there's always exceptions, but typically we don't amend soils. We don't use fertilizer. I don't like to even use landscape fabric because I want a good quality mulch actually touching the ground, because at that interface is where all the good stuff is happening. Mm-hmm. And, and so it's a very different paradigm, but I think it makes sense if you look at it from an ecological standpoint.
Yeah, it's funny. I got a message from a customer a couple weeks back. It was a photo of the mulch, and the mulch had developed a little bit of fungal issue on it, maybe some mold or mushroom kind of fungal situation. She's like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's just the mulch breaking down. It's doing, what it's supposed to be doing."
Supposed to do, yeah.
And she's like, "I don't like it." I'm like, "Well, that's good." You can't. She's like, "Can we stop it?" I'm like, "No, you don't want to stop it. You don't want to fight the natural."
I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just just rake it around, move it around. It'll be fine. But
you said next time call somebody else.
yeah,
Not me.
exactly. Lose my number. But like you say, like putting a weed fabric down prevents. It might keep out some of the weeds, but it actually prevents the mulch or the soil from benefiting from all that work that the mulch is doing, and putting the mycorrhizae in, then putting the fungal aspect, and then breathing soil with water and all of that. So use a good layer of mulch, and your plants will benefit from it.
Absolutely.
Hey, Greg. So let's talk a little bit about areas in people's yards, and because you've done restoration projects in large acres of areas, but maybe somebody has an area in their yard where they don't have irrigation, they're not actively gardening it, but they want to plant some plants. Let's kind of start there where they're wanting to plant some plants where they are not going to maintain it. What are some things they need to do first?
Well, yeah, there's definitely some nuances to this. If you're in a fire area, we found and done a lot of scientific research on the aspect of light hydration to maintain fire resistance.
Mm-hmm.
That's been huge. We've had like 24 landscapes go through major fire events. I mean, Cedar Fire, Witch Creek Fire. And, knock wood, we haven't lost a house yet, and it was because the plants were lightly hydrated. So I would say in that first 100 feet around the house, it's really a good idea to have some very light overhead permanent irrigation. That's really borne out in our studies for the U.S. Navy and other things. And but beyond that, then you can get into more of if you have a large yard, you can get into more of a pure restoration. And a lot of times in those areas, you don't need to have permanent irrigation, but you need to get the plants established too. So, there's a couple ways to approach that, but I think one of the easiest is to at least install some hose bibs out generally in these areas there, so you can just hook up a hose to it and you can hand water the plants as they're getting established. So that way you don't have to install a whole permanent irrigation system, but you have it easily and readily available as you're getting things established, or if you just want to give them what Mike Evans at Tree of Life would call a refreshing sprinkle. Basically, you act like a summer thunderstorm or fog drip in the middle of summer. That's to kind of cool them off and dust them off. So
Yeah.
that's I think one of the big things. If you're doing a new installation, but you want to do it as a restoration. Another important thing is to look at what plant community you've got. Okay, what historically grew there, and you want to be using kind of local plants that in the case of San Diego County, stuff that existed out here, and you want to, kind of rebuild this. And the best way to kind of know what to do is to go out in nature. Sometimes nature is the best designer out there, and you can kind of take notes or talk to somebody who's knowledgeable and kind of come up with a plant list based on the actual ecology. If it's bare, right? Let's say we don't have any existing natives, and you're starting from scratch. And it's really important to do your weed control. Weeds are an ecological switch. You either have weeds or you have natives. They don't coexist together very well, and usually the weeds win. They'll actually completely knock out this delicate, shallow fungal ecology overnight.
Hey, Greg, we're going to have to pause right there and take a quick break. When we get back, we'll pick right back up talking with Greg Rubin about planting some California native landscapes.
You betcha. And those on Facebook Live, questions, comments for Greg Rubin, by all means, post it right there in the comments section. We're going to take a break for Biz Talk Radio, our sponsors, Fertilome, etc. Thank you for tuning in. Brian Main, John Begnasko, Tiger Palafox. It is Garden America. Happy weekend to you. Welcome back to the show, Garden America, Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. It is good to have you along. questions, comments for our Facebook viewers and listeners right there on the comments page. As we continue, Tiger Palafox, John Bagnasco, I'm Brian Main. Garden America, Tiger, here we go again.
Yeah, and joining us this morning again is Greg Rubin with California's own Native Landscape Design, Inc. And before the break, Greg was in the middle of talking about how to prep an area for some native landscape areas. And Greg, you were mentioning that, you can have weeds or you can have natives, but, a lot of times they don't work hand in hand. So I think you were kind of getting into the process of making some room for the natives before we took that break.
Yeah, exactly. So, when you get into ecology, you start to realize that plants can have extremely significant impacts on one another, both positive and negative. And most of the weeds that we see are completely introduced, not native, and their whole goal in life is to actually wipe out the native ecology so they can take over. Mustard is classic. Mustard will secrete cyanide compounds in the soil that actually kill the mycorrhizal fungi, and then the whole native plant community collapses and they take over. That's why you'll see these fields of mustard and literally nothing else growing there. So
that sounds very thug.
Yeah. Bullies.
Yeah, really.
Mustard bullies.
Yes, very much.
Yeah.
So real important to get it kind of clean to bare ground. It's very interesting because if you don't have any residual ecology, you got to start from scratch. So you got to make sure that you basically have clean dirt, and then you start laying out your plantings using the right species for the local area, and using a kind of a layout that somewhat resembles nature. That's why I suggest also as you start to plant these things that you have some water nearby. You don't want to necessarily, if it's a big installation, you don't want to be trucking water out there in 5-gallon barrels. Just go ahead and install some hose bibs on 1-inch main lines out in the middle of these areas, so you can just have a hose handy and you can water them in and wash them off and do what you need to do. At that point, then, if it was a really weedy field, I recommend going in with something what we call a pre-emergent, which is an herbicide that kills seed in the soil down to about 1 inch or 2 when it's watered in. Again, that gets you a leg up on that non-native seed bank there. And then finally, we use a really good mulch. And if you're doing pretty much anything but desert, you want to use an organic mulch. And we found through a lot of experience that the best organic mulch is shredded redwood bark or gorilla hair. And, we usually cover the whole area in that because you're emulating the natural duff layer that forms in shrubland communities, but also to help with the weed situation, help retain moisture. And it's very, very similar to that, the natural mulch that forms over time. And, depending on when you water, when you're doing restorations like this, although we plant all year long, honestly, if you don't have a permanent irrigation system, it's one of those cases where you may want to wait till we're past the hot weather to do your planting. It'll minimize the amount of supplemental irrigation, and it'll also be a lot easier on us. You don't have to. If you have irrigation installed, you can plant any time of year. You just water more in summer. But in general, these kinds of restorations, it's probably a better idea to wait until the cooler weather in fall to start on these projects.
Yeah, so when it comes to like a normal big restoration project that you may be working on, Greg, what time of year do they wait? Do they wait till November, December, January? Because, in some of those projects, they, like you say, maybe don't have irrigation, and they're really hoping the plants get established by themselves. So when do they usually start those?
Well, anytime you plant a native plant, a live native plant, you really need to water it in good. Okay, there's no way around it because we joke we try to float them out of the hole because we're trying to get rid of the air pockets around the root ball. It's so important to have that real solid interface between the roots and soil. I guess the time of year, whatever time of year we were getting more cooler days than hot ones, it's probably a time to be, considering doing this. Right now it's probably fine. You might still have a couple of Santa Anas. You just got to be able to, get out there with the hose and hydrate them on the first day of the Santa Ana if you know one's coming. And then, once the rains kick in, hopefully this year they kick in. I hope it's not a La Nina. Then you just do as needed, maintaining a little bit of soil moisture on there. And the plants usually respond really quickly. I mean, natives, in a lot of cases, are real rocket ships. Maybe manzanita, not so much, but most of them are. And so you just want to keep them alive. You just want to sustain them, And they actually become the most mycorrhizal under slight stress. So you don't need to create a swamp out there. You just wanted to keep them alive, and lightly moist in the root ball and the root zone. One other thing that can facilitate this too, which I didn't mention, there is a way to do irrigation out there temporarily, and you could actually. I think Hunter has a product that has an MP rotator on a stake, which you can then hook to some like 1-inch pipe or 3/4 inch pipe, and put some temporary MP rotators out there on stakes. Or they even sell like butterfly stands that you can put a riser on there and put your shrub head with the MP rotator.
Yeah.
And so there's ways you could actually set above ground, tie it to your hose bib, and set up some watering much more easily that way. And then when it's really getting established and you feel good about it, just take it down, use it for another project.
Yeah. And what about size of plants? What do you think? If you're starting, with an area like we're describing, 1 gallon, 5 gallon, 15, is there a difference in the size plant that you start?
If I'm doing a restoration, I'm pretty much using 1s or, 5s if I need to, but in general, 1 gallon. They just seem to have the right balance of root mass and above ground growth, so they're like adolescents and they hit the ground running. If you're doing a residential, what I call ornamental native landscape, you might start with a few specimen plants in larger sizes, just get a sense of structure in that. But if you're doing a restoration, the very best size seems to be 1 gallon.
Yeah.
It's also easier to dig the hole.
Right. Isn't that the truth? You don't want to be going out there and digging 500 5-gallon holes.
Right.
It's much easier to dig 500 1-gallon holes and, put the plants in there.
Exactly.
Hey, so the next thing that comes to mind, after your planting is just the maintenance of these areas. Now, you and I had a discussion about, making sure that the area is kept kind of weed free, giving the natives a chance, because they'll actually, these plants will keep out a lot of the weed matter if you just give them that opportunity, right?
Yeah, once you hit about, that's the amazing thing. So like I said, they're an ecological switch, right? You either have weeds or you have natives. So once you hit about 70% canopy coverage with the natives, they actually develop their own natural weed inhibition. So if you've been out hiking and healthy chaparral, one of the things you might notice, it's really clean. It's clean as a whistle. The indigenous folks could walk 200 miles barefoot through it, and you wouldn't go 200 feet barefoot through that field across the street, right? So it really is lean, clean, mean is the mantra on this. But where you're going with that is very interesting, because there actually is another approach to doing native restoration if you have some remnant ecology, and then that's called restoration by weed control. So I know Arna Johansson, Bob Burns have, with the Native Plant Society, have had enormous success out in Forest Ranch, identifying nuclei of good ecology, and then getting that ecology to expand outwards simply by controlling all the weeds.
Hey, Greg, we're going to have to take a break in about another 30 seconds. So before you kind of get going into that detail, I want to kind of take a pause, because I know that this discussion is going to be a little bit longer. So, again, we're talking with Greg Rubin. We're talking California native landscapes. And, when we get back from the break, he's going to tell us and teach us how to expand your own native landscape that's already established and allow it to get a little bit bigger.
Okay, and feel free to chime in. Those on Facebook Live on the comments section. Very active this morning. So, again, we want to thank Greg Rubin as we continue with him after the break. Tiger Palafox, along with John Bagnasco, I'm Brian Main. Thank you for tuning in to Garden America. Back after these messages from Biz Talk Radio. Okay, we are back from the break, and a quick reminder, if you are listening on Biz Talk Radio, this is the final segment of hour number one with Garden America. We come back 2 hours. We're back at 6 minutes after the news, so hopefully you can catch us with the second hour. In the meantime, we continue our conversation this morning with Greg Rubin. A lot of good information, Tiger, as we continue here on Garden America.
Yeah, so Greg is a landscape designer, native landscape designer here in San Diego, but also has a lot of experience working all over the state. Before the break, Greg, you were going to start explaining to people that maybe you have a little bit of that, maybe that, mustard planting next to your landscape, which is a native landscape, and you want that natives to kind of creep a little bit bigger, but maybe that weed matter is preventing it from happening. So what can people do to maybe allow their natives to expand outwards?
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. So basically, you find areas, if you have some acreage, you find areas where there's still some remnant chaparral, coastal sage, scrub, oak, woodland, and that becomes the nucleus for expanding that ecology outwards, because ecology is based on soil, fungi, and mulch and all kinds of things, and the non-native weeds completely suppress that. And so what you do is you target the weeds and lead the natives to come back on their own, and it can actually happen pretty rapidly. And you do this weed control in concentric circles around the clean ecology, and pretty soon it expands outward, and pretty soon everything starts hooking up, and you start creating solid masses of natural plant community. It's pretty amazing, actually. But here's the rub, right? So you can't go in there with picks and hula hose or hand pulling these weeds, because what weeds want are exactly that, disturbance. Natives really don't like disturbance, and so you have to use the least invasive method you can. And please don't throw things at me, guys, but there at times is a call for using herbicides very minimally, very judiciously, wearing your proper protective equipment, and low to the ground, low pressure, all that. And one of the issues you have is that one of the best, honestly, for that is glyphosate, Roundup. And again, we're not crop testing with this stuff over Roundup-ready GMO crops. It's being used responsibly and minimally with protection, okay? But the thing about Roundup is that it breaks down if it hits dirt. It breaks down. You could dump concentrate, a gallon of concentrate on an oak trunk, and it will have nothing. It'll do nothing to that oak. You can soak the soil, nothing. So, unfortunately, what's happening now is they're abandoning glyphosate and they're going to triclopyr 2,4-D. Well, these are basically the active ingredient in Agent Orange. And so so they stay residual in the soil, they move through roots, they move through mycorrhizal fungi. They can move through and actually kill the desirable plants. It's the active ingredient in weed and feed, and so it's getting into our waterways. It's not good stuff. So
yeah, so just to kind of explain that is, glyphosate, or the Roundup product, it has to have foliage to work. So it has to be applied to foliage, it has to be absorbed through the foliage. Like you're saying, you can't just dump this on the ground. If you dump it into the ground, it becomes inert. It doesn't work. It doesn't kill the plants.
Exactly.
So a lot of people will say, "Oh, well, clear my area and then spray it with Roundup." That does nothing.
No, because you're spraying it on nothing.
You're spraying it on nothing.
Right.
There's nothing to absorb it. But now the bad part is, as you say, their Roundup or the glyphosate has gotten a bad name, and so now the products that they're releasing, that they're advertising do the same thing. These products actually go into the soil and can hurt, the ecology in there, can kill plants. So, be careful with what you're using. Now, I will say, though, I've seen this firsthand at John's house, because at John's house, he has a very native landscape shrub, the tree pit. That's all native landscape, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then when they graded your pad, they disturbed all that soil.
Right.
So now you have this bridge of mustard and other weed material between you and your tree pit. So now in order to kind of reclaim that, you have to, continuously kill all this mustard to allow that tree pit native to kind of creep back up towards your home. But it's a challenge, because if John keeps going in there and disturbing, and he doesn't keep doing this, I'm just saying, but if John was to take the wrong approach and just keep grading the area again and removing the mustard, you're just creating the problem over and over again, right? Greg, is what you're saying. But if he was to go in there and kind of spray, strategically, the tree pit area would naturally migrate back up towards his house.
Well, yeah, and we also, I don't mean to sound like better living through chemistry, but you have to control the weeds in the least invasive way possible. Disturbing the soil, compacting the soil, completely destroys the ecology and makes sure that the non-native cow pasture persists. And but again, even mustard, we have developed some mechanical ways of removal with using a pointed shovel a couple inches down, popping them out. But, if you're doing an acre or more site as a restoration, you can't pull your way out of that one. I mean, there's no labor, not enough labor in the world to be able to restore something like that economically, and so it's really nervous time, because I don't know any serious restoration contractor that does not use Roundup, but again, responsibly, the way it was meant to be used, and it really ticked off at Monsanto, because they really shot themselves in the foot.
So, with this thing of having your native landscape come back, what are you seeing in terms of time? And we're going to have to take a break here in about
a minute.
About a minute, Greg, so I want you to be aware of that. But let's say John started clearing, the weeds out of his area, and allowing kind of the natives to come back. Are we talking 2 years, 3 years, 6 months? What do you kind of see the response when you start to clear out some of these weeds?
Yeah, it can be pretty rapid, like 18 to 24 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, sometimes a little longer, sometimes a little less, but that's sort of the range we typically see.
Okay. All right, we're going to take a break. When we get back, we will finish chatting with Greg Rubin with California's own Native Landscape Design.
Yep, and hopefully Biz Talk Radio, you can catch our second hour coming up with Greg Rubin. For the rest of us here on Facebook Live, just keep on watching. Going to be a quicker break. And again, if you do have questions, comments there on Facebook, let us know. I'm Brian Main, Tiger Palafox, John Begnasco. Happy weekend to you, by the way. This is Garden America, hour number 2 for those on Biz Talk Radio coming up, and we continue the way we've been going all morning long here on Facebook Live. Stay with us. Okay, we are back. Those on Biz Talk Radio, if you're just joining us for your second hour, welcome once again to Garden America. Our guest this morning is Greg. Greg Rubin, right? And that's
no,
kind of
Rubin,
an inside
Rubin Greg.
Kind of an inside joke from the newsletter this morning. Greg's first name got cut off, so it just said Rubin is our guest this morning. So anyway, Greg Rubin, kind enough to spend so much time with us today, Tiger, as we get back to the conversation and welcoming those on Biz Talk Radio and new viewers and listeners on Facebook Live.
Yeah, and Greg, we do have a question that came across on the chat via Facebook. John, do you have it in front of you?
I do. Greg, this question is from Ryan, and he says that he and his mother are wondering what your favorite native tree or plant is for San Diego.
Well, that's a tough one to answer because we actually have 4,500 species to deal with. It really depends on the situation. That I do a lot of residential landscapes, so I'm usually looking for trees that fit the scale. And we've had some incredible success with stuff like there's a Arizona Oregon ash hybrid that becomes this nice, maybe 15 to 18 foot tree with beautiful fall color. Also, I'm loving desert willow. Oh my gosh, I love that plant. There's one that we developed called Maggie's Pink that is especially vigorous and lots of flowers and very fragrant, and not many seed pods. Oaks. I love scrub oaks. People don't use enough scrub oaks. So, and then you could take Toyon and prune it up. There's just tons and tons. And as far as the favorite native plant, ironically, when you're building these gardens, you actually don't want to just concentrate on one plant. You actually want to build a little plant community. And you need about 5 species from that plant community to get it biologically stable. So, like if you want to include some type of manzanita, some type of ceanothus, some type of sage, and then throw in some perennial stuff, and boom, you got showstoppers.
You mentioned something that I don't think everybody considers when they're doing their landscape is the one thing I will say that natives do lean towards, Greg, or San Diego, Southern California natives can lean towards, is very cool looking pruning aspects of it. Meaning, you mentioned, Toyon, and a lot of people just think of it as this big hedge and this big green blob. But if you prune it kind of strategically and artistically, it has a completely different look to the plant than if you just do allow it to grow natively. And it's not that, it's wrong or right. It's just a difference. And there's a lot of like manzanita, like you mentioned, a little bit of different pruning in it, almost is bonsai-esque, almost can take a Japanese look to it as well. And there's a lot of natives that you can do that with. So it could give it a different look that maybe you didn't even intend it to have, right?
Yeah, well, actually, one of my little guilty pleasures is to do Japanese-style gardens with all California native plants.
Yeah.
And you can achieve it easily, and especially start using manzanitas and different structural plants like that, and it's completely authentic. And I wanted to mention one other real quick thing is that when you prune this stuff, a lot of times we actually recommend a little bit of spray pruning sealer on the cut, because there's a lot of different species, and this research goes back to the 1940s. There's a lot of different species that are susceptible to something called apricot dieback, and they get in through the open wound. So it's not to help healing, it's actually a Band-Aid. But it's a little quick spritz of pruning sealer, especially on ceanothus, okay? You almost completely prevent the dieback.
All right.
One more quick
Oh,
question.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Greg, Carol wants to know if you know of any restoration groups that are working in the Northeast LA area.
I really don't, unfortunately, but what I would do is I would contact the Theodore Payne Foundation, which is up in Sunland, and I'm sure they would probably have some organizations that they work with and can provide referrals.
And you can easily get information on Theodore Payne online.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Or check with a local. I mean, if you were to search native plant nursery in your area, I'm sure there's probably quite a few as well, and they probably have some connections or know of some people as well. Greg, lots of great information. CalOwn.com is your website. So that's CALOWN.com is your website. Find out more information about Greg, see his book, reach out to him for a project that may be upcoming, or lots of good information on the website as well. Greg, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and enjoy this weekend. I mean, it's supposed to warm up a little bit next week, but not too bad. We're looking pretty good for the next couple of weeks, I think. It's good planting weather.
I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, Greg, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
Take care.
Okay, gentlemen.
Earlier, we asked for some quotes, and we got a couple really good quotes that I'd like to share.
I thought you were going to pick one.
Now, we got to, you know what? We have too many.
We're even? We're even?
Well, I was going to pick one, but there were two.
Oh.
So it's not really fair because they're both really good.
All right.
Sherry says, a life is like a garden. Perfect moments can be had, but not preserved, except in memory.
Ooh. Was
And
that by her? Or was that by someone?
That was by Leonard Nimoy.
Oh. You've had
Leonard
him.
Nimoy.
Leonard
You've had
Nimoy?
him before.
Yeah.
You've had one from
Really?
him before, right?
Hey, what's with his ears?
Well, it happened to be where he was when he was telling people to lend me your ears.
Gotcha.
You know, and if
Gotcha.
you're on Vulcan and you say that, that's what you end up with. Joe had another really good quote. He says, "My garden is my most beautiful masterpiece," and that was by Claude Monet.
His garden didn't have many colors in it, did it?
If you were going to bet on an impressionist, Brian, would you put your money on Monet or Manet?
Me would be probably one you didn't bring up would be Monet. In that case, the T is not silent.
Oh, okay.
So I've always been a big fan of Monet.
Was that Monet's daughter? Monet?
You do know your Monets and Monets, don't you?
I do. I liked what Greg had to say about Roundup.
You know what? I was looking at you. I would periodically look at John back and forth because John has basically echoed the same thing.
Yeah.
And it all gets down to responsibility, how you use it. But again, I've seen people not recently using Roundup, just standing up and almost spraying in the air. Just like spraying all over the place and hoping that it lands where it should be,
Well, you know,
instead of concentrating it on one area.
One problem I have using Roundup is that you can't really spray it on weeds that are 4 to 5 feet tall.
Yeah,
So I
that's
think
true.
you have to pull.
Yeah, I think that a good thing to do is to kind of like get you down, and not even maybe pull, maybe just weed whack an area.
And then as it starts to come back, spray it.
Get it
Right,
down to
'cause-
size and then kill
Yeah,
it.
Exactly.
In fact, that was one of your quotes years ago. Get it down to size and then kill it.
Yeah. And I know that the weed whacking aspect can, introduce more seeds and all of that, but then you're not disturbing the soil. You're, you're not having to pull 1,000 weeds like Greg had mentioned in a big area. But then as that comes back, as that material comes back, it's easier, like you said. You spray it, it's 3 or 4 inches tall.
Mm-hmm.
You begin to spray, you begin to clear it out. And that would be an interesting thing to do at your house, John, because you do have that bridge where your property was scraped to build your home, your pad.
Right.
And it's all full of mustard, right? Like it's all full of it. And so, it's a matter of like, could you clear it out and then have it not come back? Because you can have
Greg was saying that it takes about 18 to 24 months for a native landscape to establish itself. It takes about 6 weeks for weeds to reestablish.
That's what I'm saying. You have to keep spraying that area to keep it clear.
Yeah.
To keep it clear from coming back for that 18 months.
The problem is I have so much area to do that once I get one area under control, then from that point on, I can maintain it.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to try to do everything all at once.
Have you found in your Australian native area?
We got a break coming up.
Okay.
So why don't you finish the question after the break,
finish it after the break.
or give him something to think about?
Nah, he
Okay.
knows.
He's got enough going on.
Yeah.
So we are going to take a break. Biz Talk Radio, Facebook Live. Thank you for the comments, the questions on Facebook Live. Keep them coming. We are going to take a break on this weekend or whenever you're listening to this show. It could be a pre-recorded show, listening after the fact, and that's good too. We are Garden America, back after these messages for our friends on Biz Talk Radio. All right, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. It is Garden America. Along with Tiger, John, myself, hope you're having a good weekend so far. Thank you for tuning in. Whatever's on your mind, we'd like to hear it. And you had a question for John, I should say, before the break, Tiger.
No, I don't think it's fair for you to just welcome back your friends.
My friends.
Yeah, people who tolerate you should be welcome too.
My friends.
Do you have
What about
friends?
my friends?
Do you have friends on this? You get a couple, yeah. That was from Emerson, Lake and Palmer, that beginning of a song. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside, come inside.
Oh, that's right. I've heard that.
Oh, I like that song.
It's a good song, isn't it?
Yeah.
We used to play that as an opener back in the day
Yeah.
when we were just doing radio.
Before Facebook would
Well,
knock us
here's
off.
the thing about Facebook, though. You can post now songs. Those little shorts at the beginning that people post? And I've posted stuff with songs, and apparently it's okay. So I'm not sure what's happened with the licensing or the royalties. And because I've been thinking about, gosh, maybe we should play some bumper music.
Yeah, it'd be fun to have some music
and
again.
to see what happens, because apparently it's okay in some aspects of licensing on Facebook.
We'll plan that. We'll plan a show with that. I like that idea.
Okay, we'll give it a shot. We'll see if they take us off.
But what I was going to say to John, or ask John, was if he's had any difference of experience, because Greg had mentioned that when you let the native plants into an area, grow into an area and establish into an area, it changes the ecology in the soil. So the non-native weeds that come in actually can't take root because of the way that the soil is, the different makeup of the soil. And so I was wondering, because he has a whole Australian area, do the Australian plants keep the weeds out, or do the weeds come back just as strong as if in your rose garden? Because your roses don't keep the weeds out. They don't change the ecology of the soil to keep
attract weeds.
Yeah. How about in the Australian area? Have you seen less weed growth?
I didn't know I had an Australian area.
Yeah, the one that's down under.
Oh, that's called the tree pit.
Yeah.
No, didn't you have a slope that you were just putting Australians,
Did I?
native plants
Australian
also?
natives.
I thought you did.
What are some Australian? I have a eucalyptus tree.
No, but don't at the slope, the corner?
Yeah.
What's all down that side?
There's a rose.
What,
A big rose.
you have nobody to blame but yourself.
There's some uriops. I don't think there's any Australian plants
Could
over
have
there.
sworn you had an Australian area. Never mind.
What about your Brisbane hedge?
I would like to have an Australian area. I don't have any objections to it.
Yeah, but you just don't.
I just haven't done it yet.
No.
And all your Sydney plants.
By the way, Lisa wants you to realize that there are some people that have temperatures still over 100.
Where's Lisa?
She's in Reading.
Well, Reading's always hot. I mean, Reading's 90s
not
is
always
low.
No,
hot.
it's hot or cold.
Yeah, and the low in Reading is 90.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, she's looking at 104 on Tuesday.
Wow.
What are we looking at? Mid 70s again? High
So
70s?
no, it's supposed to get up to 80.
Well, I'll
on
take
Tuesday.
80. 80 feels cool compared to what we had a month ago.
Well, but what John mentioned is also happening right now. We don't feel the 80 like we felt the 80 2 months ago, because
It's 80 for 3 hours instead of 80 for 8 hours.
Exactly. When you wake up 2 months ago, when it was 80 at 9 a.m. Now it
warms up.
It peaks at 80 and then it starts to go down.
It's been cloudy, at least here at the station, till about 11 o'clock, 11:30. The sun peaks out. Then it gets to hit 80. It's like what you're saying. You don't wake up to it.
So is Reading sunny and hot then? Because are they not getting any clouds? So Lisa, I wonder, are you guys more sunny there as well? Because they don't get the cloud cover like we do.
She was 57 this morning.
Oh, that's cold.
Well, that's nice.
Oh, I thought that was her age.
Oh.
I think you're right. She probably was talking about the temperature.
Oh, God.
Where'd we get him?
Yeah.
Tanya
Hey,
says...
John, real quick.
What?
You're an acquired taste.
Thank you. Tanya says that I need an Australia area. She loves the proteas. I do have proteas. Is that what you were thinking of?
No, I thought you had grevillea. I thought you had leucadendron, protea, all in one area. I
have hakeas.
I feel like you talked about an Australian native area before.
I think I've got a lot of Australian and African plants mixed together. Yeah, I've got some cycads.
Well, that's your double A area.
Encephalitis. Double A.
The double A garden area.
Australia, Africa.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I guess he does to some degree.
Yeah,
right?
but it's not the area I was thinking. I feel like that corner of the slope going down to the lower house, I feel like I remember seeing
that corner that you're talking about. I think if you come up the side driveway and you go back to that corner where the bougainvillea is. The tree bougainvillea? Not that corner.
No, I'm talking the back of the house, going down to the lower house.
Oh, there's nothing back there.
Nothing down there.
You know what I think?
That's
I think
the area you were going to work on next.
I think these were plans in your mind that never came to fruition.
On the slope.
Yeah, there's nothing on the slope.
Okay.
There's some wild grape. I keep asking people to take
wild grape.
Out. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It's difficult to get rid of. And then castor beans is another.
Oh, that's...
You know what I wanted to ask, Greg? Maybe you have an idea on this, Tiger.
Mm-hmm.
How long, or is it possible for non-native plant to become a native.
Oh, like when it's been here long enough period of
Yeah.
time that all of a sudden. Well, I kind of feel like that's probably a little bit in the kind of genetics, right? Like if it was non-native when it got here and then it began to cross, at some point in time that plant is not from wherever it was before. It's from here, right?
Well,
Kinda
weren't
like-
all the plants from somewhere
Oh,
eventually?
okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though.
John,
Like,
you moved from Detroit.
Yeah.
You've been here a long time. Now you
Well,
consider yourself a native?
no, John is not native.
Right.
But Joe, Jesse, and Gina are.
Because
Not
they're
Joe.
Oh, not Joe. Sorry.
the offshoot. They're the
Jesse and
offshoots.
Gina are-
So that's what I'm saying.
He's
That's
the original
same,
plant.
That's the same thing. He's the original plant.
Right.
But now his new plants, they're native.
There you go.
So,
You know,
so
I-
like the Tory pine, right? That's not necessarily native. Wasn't that
No, but it's been here a long time.
right? I think if I remember correctly, because there's another island that has Tory pines also, and so I feel like that was a non-native. But like you're saying, a lot of people consider it native.
This is an arid desert right to the ocean. You go way back. I mean, can you think of any trees that
It's
are
not really
native?
desert. It's
Yeah, arid
chaparral.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's chaparral, not
Right,
desert.
but the desert into the chaparral. But can you think of any trees that are actually native?
Yeah, we talk about this all the time. That there are really not a lot of
Right.
San Diego
Right.
trees that are natives. You know, sycamore, oaks. You know, like we said, the Tory pine. You know, we consider that native.
The dreaded pepper tree. And I say that for many reasons.
But
We talked about how California peppers and Brazilian peppers were both from Brazil.
yeah.
But is the California pepper been around long enough to
To
be
be
native?
native now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, good point. That's
I don't know.
We
That-
got to take a break. I'm
I think
watching the
that's
clock
like a
here.
chicken or the egg thing.
All right, got to take a break. 2 more segments, by the way. We're still going strong. So questions, comments on Facebook Live. Thank you for those tuned in on Biz Talk Radio. Garden America is going to take a break for you. Back after these messages, as they used to say, and then more of Garden America. Stay with us. As they say, the mics are hot, and we are back at it here on Garden America. Thank you for tuning in as we continue. 2 more segments, this one and the following segment.
Lenore wants to know where crepe myrtles are from. Mine are from Tiger. But crepe myrtles,
Native of?
the Indian subcontinent.
Wow.
So I think maybe some from Australia, India, East Asia.
What about Sri Lanka?
I don't know. Sri Lanka
It's in the-
used to be Ceylon.
And
or
it's in that
Ceylon.
same neighborhood
Could
that you're
be.
referring to.
I think it was Ceylon, wasn't it?
That gets into the whole
Constantinople, Istanbul.
Yeah,
thing?
and then you had Myanmar. It used to be
Burma.
Burma. Yeah, just great. Just change the name of the country.
Did you notice that a lot of those? This is a little bit off subject, which is
Well,
unusual
when have we
for
ever
us.
gone off subject here? Right? Wait, hold on. Let's see. This is the rabbit hole. Actually, it's the first rabbit hole this morning we're going into. Go ahead.
But when the British Empire, named a lot of the places that they colonized and took over, and as their power faded, a lot of those places changed names back to
Right. To get away from.
right. Like I'm sure the name Peking came from the
duck?
British, and Peking is now Peking. Peking is Beijing, and was Bombay.
Oh yeah, Bombay is now. Yeah, what is Bombay now?
Sapphire?
Oh, my mind just went blank.
Oh my gosh, somebody will jump in. But
Yeah.
yes, your point's well taken.
Right, and I think that happened to a lot. And Burma again,
Mm-hmm.
Myanmar. So, if you don't have power, you can't control things.
That's how John feels about his garden too. He's got to establish dominance over everything in his yard.
Speaking of dominance, I've gone through. My roses were all heat pruned
Yeah.
a couple weeks ago.
Singed.
Yeah, and I mean some are just look like they had a blowtorch go
Yeah.
to them. They're flat out
Kevin
dead.
says Mumbai. Mumbai, sorry.
Yeah, Mumbai. That's
Mumbai.
right. Thank you, Kevin.
See?
Heat torch roses.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's for those people listening, explain yourself because somebody's going, I got to write that down. How do I do that? You're talking about the heat.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
went through and we had temperatures near 110 twice in a whole week, well over 100.
It's not a method. It's the weather.
It was a result
Yeah,
of the heat.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I have had to go through now and cut back everything and seeing what's still alive. And I think I'm going to end up maybe losing a dozen.
Okay.
But anyway, with the weather the way it is now, the ones that come back, I think are going to look great in a couple weeks. And we're thinking towards the end of August, maybe doing another show from my house.
Yeah.
So the rose.
You mean end of October?
Yes, the end of, that is exactly what I meant.
It's okay.
not
See,
the
I
end of
listen.
August.
I listen to you.
Yes, I appreciate it too. And next week we're going to have Paul Zimmerman on, and he's going to talk about he's a noted rosarian,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and he's going to talk about a garden he's restoring.
He's trying to establish like a rose sanctuary garden. Where they can,
and I think it's up in the Bay Area, right? And it was an old California nursery.
yeah,
And
I was going to ask you. I mean, I was saying, are you trying to get that done at your house? Just get your house deemed an old rose sanctuary.
I don't know if I'll live long enough for it to be an old sanctuary.
Did you see what Millie's comment?
Millie? No.
Speaking of planting California natives, I found this old saying to be generally true. The first year they sleep, second year they creep, the third year they leap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
That's true, right?
And it's based on it getting established. Meaning don't expect too much from the plants the first year.
Right.
The second year they kind of start to take off and the roots are established and the plants are looking better. And then by year 3 you should see some actual real good growth on it.
What's the fastest or one of the fastest growing roses that you're aware of?
Ooh.
What's the one we saw in England?
The Kifskate rose?
Kifskate rose.
Because I've got a cake. I assume there was already a name, but a good name for something like that grows fast, instant gratification.
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah, but this one that Tiger and I saw covered an acre,
yeah, I covered it.
and it
Whole
went up
house
into
structure.
trees like
Yeah.
maybe 30
So
feet
it's out of
tall.
control, basically.
Yeah, it is out
Yeah.
of control.
Talk about needing Roundup at the appropriate time.
Yeah. Instant gratification. There's those like creeper roses, the ramblers that grow real fast too, though. That will spread out real quick.
Brian's already thinking Ramblin' Man, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I
Allman
can tell.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows. We came up with telepathy.
Yeah.
We
you,
get no.
you guys
we
were the
get, and
one.
nobody gives us credit.
Yeah.
You know?
That started it all.
Yeah, we started the whole telepathy thing.
Uh-oh. I just pushed the wrong thing.
You know, it's something when here's a good retort or response to somebody that kind of assumes you know something and they start talking, and the response is, "Excuse me, I had my ESP turned off. Let me turn it back on again."
I need to say that to my son every day. Then
Yeah.
he just will say, "Dad, what's this? What is this, Isaac?"
Then
what,
just
what do
you know what? Then just come up with something random.
I do that.
You know, looks like a
Because-
grain of sand to me.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. Exactly.
Lila says jacarandas are native to Brazil. I don't know if we were talking about jacarandas.
No,
but
I didn't know though.
That is true. And speaking of Sherry being in South Africa, I think it's the streets of Johannesburg are famous for their lines of jacaranda.
Oh,
Do you think
really?
they would probably grow the same there as here, right? Like as far as size and conditions, right? Because I'm wondering if in Brazil, where they're native to, they grow larger. Sometimes where plants are from, they can grow bigger. But
I'm thinking latitude when you said that. I'm thinking of South Africa and latitude.
of if it's
What
the
other
same.
countries would it be equivalent to?
Yeah.
It gets very hot, doesn't it, in South Africa?
I guess.
Yeah, I think it does. Yeah. Especially this time of year, as you said, they're in spring, would make sense moving into the summer months.
They'd be blooming right now.
Could be.
Are getting ready to bloom anyway.
Yeah.
See, Janice asked. That's why she responded with the jacaranda comment.
Oh, okay.
See, our viewers and listeners, they chat amongst themselves.
Yeah, there's a whole side
That whole
conversation
culture
on.
going on there.
We did talk before about, and I still in the back of my mind have tried to find some of the grafted jacaranda,
Yeah.
and I'll have to maybe send a note to Tatiana at Top Tropicals, because that's the only place I've ever seen them.
And then Kevin thinks that Kate Sessions brought the jacarandas to San Diego.
Yeah. I don't know.
You know, that's one of those we have to
Well,
think about.
She did bring in the Tipuana, which kind of looks like a jacaranda. I don't know about the jacaranda, but
Possibility.
I do know that the Tipuana is sometimes referred to as the Kate Sessions tree, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot that she did bring in, in terms. So
You know where Kate Sessions Park is?
Yeah, in Pacific Beach.
Yeah, up there and on the way to La Jolla. And that
Yeah.
when we were in junior high and high school, we only knew that place as some place to go to make out.
Really?
Go to Kate Sessions Park. You had a nice view.
Nice view.
Nice view.
That was
I had
the
no idea
make-out
who
point, huh?
Kate Sessions meant. Nothing to me.
Meant make out. That's what she meant to you.
I know. Yeah, I guess to this day, right? Kate Sessions Park. Oh, we'd say, let's go watch the submarine races.
There was a rose called Kate Sessions that I believe is extinct.
I was gonna say,
And I would
really, I
if-
didn't know that.
Wow.
Yeah, if anyone out there knows about the Kate Sessions rose, I'd love to find it.
Oh man, I would love to find that.
Yeah.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
And what's that? Do you recall what it looks like, John? I mean,
What
you
it-
can
No,
look it
I've
up?
never
I guess.
seen
Red? Was
it.
it a
Oh,
white?
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then how
I
would
don't
you
know.
know if you found it?
Could go to Help Me Find Roses. There might be a picture of it there, but there are a lot of rare roses on Help Me Find with no pictures. And those are either extremely rare or extinct.
Aren't some of those roses sometimes found in cemeteries?
Yeah. No, that's you talk about that because it's at the area where they just kind of get left.
Yeah, they get left. Nobody really
Yeah.
goes through there looking for roses. They just kind of grow on their own. You're looking it up, aren't you?
I am. Not that I'll find much information. If
We're
John
gonna
doesn't know, if John doesn't know it exists, then
Well, if you go to Help Me Find Roses and then on their search, put in Kate Sessions.
We're going to take a break. We have one more segment coming up. So be sure to get those cards and letters in the next few minutes or so here. Garden America slowly wrapping up another show. So again, we're going to take a break for Biz Talk Radio. Stay with us. We're coming back here on Garden America, Facebook Live and Biz Talk Radio. All righty, that's it, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. We are back for our final segment. Veronica, that makes me sad, extinct roses. Well, we think they're extinct. I mean, how many times have you come across a rose that you thought was extinct?
Well, I think maybe we've introduced one that was actually called extinct. But
Be a good name for it.
extinct. What was I going to say? Oh, that's the purpose of the annual rose auction.
Absolutely.
At the California.
Rare and
Coast-
endangered
Right.
roses.
We need you to be the auctioneer in October. The
This
end
October?
Of October, no, next year.
Okay, because that's the big one, isn't it?
Yeah. The biggest we've had for years. We're looking to have close to 300 roses.
Oh, I love it. The bigger the crowd, the more I like it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And there should be. Did you find it, Tiger?
Yeah.
You found the
on
picture?
Help Me Find.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, so-
no picture, though.
No
right?
picture. It's a pink blend, large flowered climber, bred by Forrest
Forrest Hyatt.
Hyatt in
Yeah.
1953.
Forrest Hyatt was if I remember correctly, he was a member of the San Diego Rose Society.
Oh, really?
And he also bred, if you click on Forrest Hyatt, you'll see the other roses he bred. And I think he bred a single rose called Flame of Love. And after a Rose Society meeting, he went to cross the street and was hit by a car and killed.
Oh,
goodness.
stop it. Really?
Yeah. But I think I was back in the 50s.
That sounds like what happened to Orson Bean.
So
Oh, really?
You remember Orson Bean?
Yeah.
So a couple of
He
2 or
was
3
on
years
game
ago.
shows.
Yeah, he was
I
a
just saw him on a
quasi
Twilight Zone.
comedian, Twilight Zone. So he was like 92, 93, and he was leaving an event in Santa Monica, stepped out into the street, same thing happened. Hey, by the way, Kevin wants to know he's lost track.
Is Flame of Love one of his roses?
Yeah, his 5 roses are Edmund Mills, Flame of Love, Miss Kate Sessions, San Diego, and Sweet Memory.
Ah.
Kevin wants to know the winning name of your rose.
Oh, in
The
the
one that-
heirloom Name the Rose contest, it was Blushing Dogwood, right?
I can't remember.
Blushing Dogwood.
It's a good name. I like it.
Do you? I wasn't thrilled with it, but it's okay.
So let me ask you this then, John. Could you take, because it tells us that it's a cross between the Heart of Gold and Edna Thomas. So could you recreate the Kate Session rose from that, or no, that's an impossibility because it was
if you
that
found
one
those
plant.
same 2 roses and interbred.
Mm-hmm.
Crossed is the word.
I like interbred.
No, you can't.
Because it's different. Like every
Right.
time, like you and like we were talking about.
You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, some roses are called sister seedlings
Uh-huh.
because they came from the same
same-
seed, same hip,
Right.
but you've got 3 completely different roses.
So there's
Well, that's
no
like
bringing.
the same. That's like
So there's no bringing back the Kate Sessions, huh?
No, you're thinking of Jurassic Park type stuff.
If
You
I
can't do
found
that.
if I found some Kate Sessions DNA in a piece of amber, you're saying I can't create it again?
Even if you did, it wouldn't be.
Well, maybe if you found the DNA in amber, that might work. What date for the auction? And Carla wants to know if the list is up yet. No, we're talking about next
2025.
year. 2025. That's our centennial. That's why it's such a big deal. It's our centennial auction.
Wow.
It's
Because the
100
first one I did was 2004, right?
Yeah.
So if the rose doesn't exist again, can you name a new rose Kate Sessions?
You know,
That's a good question.
this frustrates me because in Europe, they
change-
don't patent roses,
Right.
How about Kate Sessions 2.0?
but they trademark roses. And they'll use because you own the trademark, nobody else can use that name.
Uh-huh.
So if they've had that name and 20 years later they come up with another rose and they're not growing the first one anymore, they'll use the same name. So you can have,
4 different roses
Yeah.
for the same name.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's frustrating because, you
Yeah.
you give a name and which one are you referring to?
Yeah.
And sometimes, like right now in the United States, the most popular exhibition rose is Ring of Fire. And that was bred by our friend Chris Greenwood. And when he was getting ready to name it, I said, don't name that Ring of Fire because Ralph Moore had a miniature rose called Ring of Fire. But Chris said the company that wanted to introduce it wanted to use that name. So he was going to get royalties and he didn't care. Call it what you want.
Is there an exhibition rose named Gypsy Rose Lee?
There's roses called Gypsy. I don't know about Rose Lee.
Gypsy Rose, think about it.
That was Robert E.'s daughter, right?
Granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
But I just think an exhibition,
Yeah.
All right.
Carla said she thought there was one this
Don't
fall.
get,
and no,
don't
we
get
had,
uncomfortable.
had the one in the spring. By the way, now that Carla brings up the one we had in the spring, I think that's the one where Carla gave me 3 yellow clivia. I planted them, and one disappeared last week because a gopher ate it.
Oh.
Oh.
But the good news is I got 3 gophers last week. So
Ah.
I'm up to 47.
Yeah, but the hits just keep on coming.
Oh, they do. There's and they got I took some of my seedling roses and put them on that hillside just to see how they did, see how they do in the ground. And if I don't like them, I'll just pull them out. But one was a real nice polyantha, and I really liked it. That was the one, the gopher.
Oh, of
ate.
course. Left the other ones.
Yeah.
And then got the one you really wanted.
1 minute.
Until
For
the
what?
show's over?
That's it? Yeah.
Over? Not even a break?
No, we're done.
Oh, my goodness.
See, that means you were into it. You got lost in the show, and that's good.
That does.
It is good.
Yeah.
It is good. Okay,
Yeah.
next week's guest, again, we talked about it briefly.
Paul Zimmerman.
Paul
Tell me
Zimmerman.
roses.
Yeah, roses.
Yeah, we're talking roses.
Everything's coming up roses next week, so be sure to tune in. Those on Biz Talk Radio, the rest of you on Facebook Live, we love it. Thank you so much. We love you for tuning in. And, boy, supporting the show. That we do appreciate. A big thank you to Fertilome, our major sponsor. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a good week. It'll warm up a little bit here in San Diego and in other areas, so be safe, be careful. And we'll do it again next week right here on Garden America, right?
All right.
Right.
Go
Okay.
for Hawk, by the way. Kevin asked. Go for Hawk.
Go for Hawk.